Hello again to everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Charles Nathan, your friendly guide helping you to navigate the shadowy swamp that is the modern British state. First thing I need to do is apologise to my regular viewers as I've not been around quite so much for the last week or 10 days. But hey, sometimes out there in the real world things happen, duty calls, and you just have to get things done at certain times. And it's quite interesting I should be talking about the real world because it's kind of what we're on about today. We're going to take a quick look at a meeting of the Women and Equalities Committee that took place last week. During that session they were discussing the manosphere and its presumably negative influence on men and teenagers and boys. For anyone who's not familiar what the manosphere is, if you want to look it up in any urban dictionary you can find a definition, but it's basically bros online teaching guys supposedly how to be more manly, more successful, more of an alpha male, and then ultimately of course more desirable to women, which does play a big part in it. Now there are lessons for all of us to learn in this interesting exchange, and they go beyond the subject of the manosphere, and they do speak to our experiences online. And we have to remember that everyone we talk to online, unless we really know them personally or we've known them for a long time, we may not be speaking to someone who is exactly what they appear to be. This is something that's been discussed online a lot, and it's something that James Bloodworth was talking about when he was doing his research into the manosphere. So here he is, just giving a bit of evidence and telling people exactly what it's really like. And when we think about all the influencers that are currently fleeing the Middle East, it kind of brings things home. Remember, everyone may appear to be hugely successful out there, but is it really true? Well, here's James Bloodworth's take on it.
I mean, the content, one difference between the early manosphere that I encountered and later was the earlier manosphere in 2006. It was comprehensible in terms of these men. They want to turn themselves into the objects of female desire. They want to make themselves very attracted to women. And the manosphere, when I went back to it, these men were performing for other men. It was for the male gaze. It was their idea of what success is, but it was a male idea of success. And the way social media, the way they performed for social media, they would sometimes hire models for their social media content. I mean, I went out to the desert in Nevada with one of these groups, and they'd hired a Lamborghini, and they'd do photo shoots in front of it to make it look like this was the lifestyle they were living. There were others who were hiring out cabins which were kitted out like a private jet inside and then sitting, with a laptop and then putting captions "office for the day" when they uploaded it to Instagram. And it was tragic, but then they'd also then film themselves at a nightclub where they had bottle service tables because they knew the host for the nightclub, so they've got a free table, but they're making out, when Calvin Harris is playing, they've got a DJ set. And then some women will join that because they've invited them to join and it's free alcohol and stuff, and then they'll film it and make out that that's their, because social media doesn't show the whole picture. Right. And so some kid watching that is thinking this is what they're doing 24/7. They don't know that the women have been hired. They don't know that this is just a scam. It's not really their lifestyle.
So there's an important lesson for all of us. Just because someone's flashing a load of cash on screen with fast cars and seemingly a glamorous lifestyle, is it really true? Or is it more like the old Morecambe and Wise sketch where they'd finished for the night and one of them walks across with his raincoat and his tux in a paper bag going home for the night, probably going to catch the bus? Let's be honest, most of us aren't Lamborghini or Ferrari driving superstars, even though we could hire cars and hire hotel suites and make out like we are. So perhaps, especially for you younger guys out there who might be more interested in things like fast cars and fast women, just bear in mind that if someone's telling you how to get all that stuff and asking for money, well, unless they've actually done something else provably in business to get that stuff, I'd be very skeptical myself. And of course, don't forget as well, it is in social media's interest to drive us towards ever more extreme content, and that can change each and every one of us. We hear a lot of talk about society being more and more divided. Well, I don't think that's entirely internet related, but certainly the algorithms don't help. I see it myself every day. I consume certain content, and then before I know it, I'm being served with content I really have no particular interest in, which is a more extreme version of what I've already seen. So we all need to bear that in mind. Just because YouTube or Facebook or Instagram serves us something up doesn't mean that it's got your best interests at heart. All it's got at heart is clicks and views, and that goes for a lot of the creators. So here's a bit more input from the witnesses on this particular issue, and again, it's something I think we all need to bear in mind going forward, particularly as the world's becoming a more dangerous and fractious place by the day.
Mr. Blake said that he thinks some of the young men who were on the manosphere were repeating things, but they didn't genuinely believe it. Does that apply to the entrepreneurs as well? Do they genuinely believe what they're saying, or is it just a way to make money?
I think eventually it's sort of the distinction it's a distinction without a difference eventually. Like they may, even if they didn't start off believing it, even if it was just a financial, if it was a way to make money, the mask comes to fit the face, as it were. So they may be playing a character, but then they become the character essentially, and it sort of doesn't really matter if they're espousing certain views to build an audience, whether it's audience capture. There's that kind of symbiotic relationship between the audience wants more extreme content, and so they lean into that. It sort of doesn't matter because the ecosystem trends more extreme. That's sort of what matters, I'd say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think leaning into the more polarizing content will always work better. It's always going to get you more engagement. It's always going to get you more followers, more clicks, and eventually more revenue. So the more polarizing, the better, unfortunately, in a lot of those situations. And I think that that polarizing figure that they create might not necessarily be who they are, but it makes them money, and that's how they continue. And the problem with that is that you have the young lads watching that and thinking that's who they really are and that's who they need to become, not knowing that it's actually a complete creation of the beast itself, which is the algorithm, and it's just a vicious cycle.
So there we have a primary example of art imitating life, imitating art. Someone starts off as not very successful, telling everyone that they are very successful, and eventually they become the thing that they claim to be, which could sound like a great success story, but remember, if you're getting information and buying courses from these people, don't forget they've got all that stuff now, and they're unlikely to want to share it with anyone else, particularly people who keep giving them money. And that's something to bear in mind for all walks of life and all situations. If you can't see something successful that somebody's done in the past, I'd be very careful about committing anything to them, either financially or ideologically, because the algorithm is driving us to more extremes. I see it myself all the time. I consume a lot of political and social content, and I'm forever getting pushed to more extreme clickbaity videos that I really have no particular interest in doing. But there they are, and they keep shoving them in front of my face, and no matter how many times I say I'm not interested, I still keep seeing them. And I'm sure it's the same for all of you as well. And it does have a real world effect, because I've seen in the last 12 to 18 months a lot of content creators who I've previously enjoyed and admired greatly go down the rabbit hole, and they've just produced more and more and more extreme and outlandish content, chasing presumably a demographic that they believe exists, or perhaps even worse, they're helping to create. And that's not really helping to serve anyone. I'm even seeing it with content creators I still enjoy, but I'm seeing some changes around the edges. Their thumbnails are becoming a little more clickbaity and a little more rage baity, and these are people who I admire, have big audiences, and they really don't need to be behaving that way. In fact, in my opinion, they should be trying to set a better example for others to follow. Anyway, I'm sure they're not going to care what I think, as I've got about 6 subscribers, so what the heck. As always though, do please share, like, subscribe, do all those cool things, because it does help to keep independent voices like this free, vibrant and growing. Because always remember, our ignorance is their power. I'll see you all again soon. Bye bye for now.